Day after day, Captain Marcus Grant and his military dog Zeus lived together as companions, fighting and sharing unimaginable challenges. They first met during a training mission to clear a clean military base. Marcus, then a rookie, had no idea that this dog would become his most loyal companion. Zeus, a special dog, has the ability to sense danger with his sensitive senses. But above all, Zeus has a condition of unconditional loyalty. He's not only a tool in the army, but also a friend who protects Marcus in the most difficult times. Marcus often recalls the harsh moments in the training camp when they had to pass stressful tests of ability. Despite Marcus's limitations, Zeus is always ready to expand and go one step further, never giving up. The dog always runs beside him in every race, never leaving him behind. They had been through fierce battles together, where their lives were separated by a thread. In those battles, Zeus was always the first to recognize the dangerous relationship, foretelling attacks before Marcus could even realize it. Zeus's sensitivity had studied Marcus's life countless times. The times they were both trapped in dangerous situations, they would find a way to escape together, never leaving each other's side. When the war ended, they returned to the city with wounds in their hearts and bodies. The memories of the war still affected them, but there was one thing Marcus knew for sure. No matter what happened, Zeus would always be his companion. No one could replace him. The mornings in the city passed peacefully, but Marcus felt a strange sense of loneliness without the battlefield around him. Zeus was always by his side day after day. They walked in the park, sat together in small cafes, where Marcus could find peace amidst the noise of the city. But in the peace, something was slowly changing. A decision that Marcus never imagined would happen began to creep into his and Zeus's lives. The government buildings with their closed rooms, the arguments in the law office, all began to be an inevitable problem. And one day, Marcus received notice that Zeus would be separated from him. No one explained, only that this was the official decision and Marcus could do nothing to change it. At that moment, sadness filled Marcus's heart. He looked at Zeus, his loyal dog, and wondered if his life could continue without this dog at the edge. The bond between them had become a part of life, and work had been severed like an unhealed wound. However, Marcus could not accept it. He looked into Zeus's glowing eyes and knew that they would never be apart, no matter how hard they fought. Their friendship was unbreakable, and Marcus vowed to do whatever it took to keep Zeus by his side. They were a part of each other, inseparable. That day, a heavy atmosphere hung over the courtroom. Marcus stood there, his hands clenched, unable to do anything but wait for the outcome. The large courtroom, the hard chairs, and the large table made him feel like he was in a foreign place, not a place where he and Zeus had once felt safe and secure. It became even harder to breathe when he saw Zeus being held outside the room, an impassable distance from him. The judge delivered his verdict coldly, without emotion. This decision is the result of a thorough assessment of the dog's need for military service. To be retained in a combat environment, but not to continue as Captain Grant's companion. These words were like a knife cutting through Marcus's heart. He felt as if everything that had given meaning to his life had suddenly shattered. Zeus was the only companion he had, the friend he had placed his complete trust in, the friend who had saved his life countless times on the battlefield. How could they be separated? How could he continue without Zeus by his side? Marcus could not understand how the people sitting in the courtroom, the people he thought could understand. The special relationship between a soldier and his dog could make such a cold decision. They did not see what he and Zeus had been through, could not feel the unbreakable connection between them. Zeus stood outside the room, his eyes looking inside through the frosted glass door. That look was not just worry, but also a deep connection, a look that seemed to say to Marcus, "We will never be apart." Although there were no words, in that look, Marcus felt absolute loyalty, the stillness of a dog ready to protect its master until its last breath. But now this decision had turned their lives upside down. All Marcus wanted was to run to Zeus, to hold his dog close and protect him from the separation. But he couldn't. He was bound by the decisions of the court, by powers beyond his control. There was nothing he could do but stand there, looking at the people deciding Zeus' fate. Zeus began to bark, the sound echoing throughout the courtroom. The dog couldn't fully understand what was happening, but he knew that something was wrong. Each bark from Zeus was a plea, a warning that without him by his side, Marcus would no longer be himself. Zeus' eyes were filled with worry, but also with faith in his companion. Everyone in the room looked at each other, feeling the tension in the air. The judge's attitude did not change, continuing to make decisions without the slightest wavering. Marcus felt defeated in his own home, but the only thing he could do was close his eyes, calm down, and prepare for the next battle. In Marcus's heart, this decision was not only a shock, but also the collapse of everything he had fought for. A soldier cannot live without his companion, and a friend cannot live without the protection of his master. This friendship was not just a relationship between man and dog, but an indispensable part of both of their lives. When the trial ended, Marcus no longer felt like a winner or a loser. He only felt a terrible emptiness and loss. Zeus was still outside, silently looking in with a determined gaze. "We will never be separated, right?" Marcus asked himself, knowing the answer was clearer than ever. No matter how life changes, Zeus will always be his loyal friend, his irreplaceable companion. And now he will do anything to not lose Zeus. The courtroom fell silent as the judge announced his final decision. Marcus could not believe his ears. He stood there, his heart clenched in pain, looking at Zeus through the frosted glass, while the loyal dog barked incessantly, as if to warn him of something Marcus had not yet noticed. Suddenly, Zeus fell silent. The dog's gaze sharpened, and he seemed to notice something in the air. His ears pricked up, his nose tensed, his eyes fixed on the courtroom door. Everything around him became hazy in the strange feeling that enveloped him. Marcus felt an inexplicable sense of anxiety spread through his body. A feeling that something was about to happen, something terrible that he could not yet see. He looked at Zeus, but the dog continued to watch at the end of the room, where the large doors led to the hallway. A soft click sounded. Marcus couldn't hear clearly, but his heart began to beat faster. A quiet, yet determined, footstep was approaching the courtroom. Something was happening, and Marcus sensed a change in the atmosphere. Something was wrong. Everyone in the courtroom continued to chat after the decision, but the atmosphere in the room had changed. Marcus couldn't shake the tension in his body. He felt like there was another presence watching his every move. The light in the room seemed to dim slightly, and the sounds around him became hazy, as if a layer of fog was covering everything. Just then, a figure entered the room without a sound. This person was tall, his eyes cold and unpredictable. A chill rose in Marcus's heart as he realized that this person was not someone he knew. Before he could even gather his wits, the man walked toward the center of the courtroom, his eyes fixed on Marcus and the others. No one else in the room paid much attention, but Marcus sensed the difference immediately. "This dog belongs to me." The man's voice rang out, cold and authoritative. The room fell silent. Marcus couldn't take his eyes off the man. The man's eyes held not only confidence but also a clear threat. Marcus's feelings instantly shifted from confusion to alertness. Something was wrong. He couldn't be sure, but he sensed a danger here that no one else had noticed. This man hadn't come here to simply argue over the ownership of a dog. Zeus, as soon as the man entered, barked again. Not a harmless bark, but a serious, tense bark. Marcus's loyal dog didn't back down, and Marcus knew that Zeus sensed something he couldn't see. The dog wasn't just warning, but determined to protect him at all costs. Zeus knelt down, bared his teeth, and glared at the man like a lion defending its territory. The stranger stood there, silently observing the scene between Marcus and Zeus. There was no hesitation in his gaze, as if he had calculated everything. "I have come to take this dog away. He will be useful to our larger plans," he said, not hiding his intentions. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He knew that this was no ordinary fight. The way this man spoke, the way he looked at Zeus, both carried signs of cunning and danger. Zeus stopped barking, but remained in his protective stance. Marcus realized that this was not just a dog protecting its master, but a real fight to the death. If Zeus had not warned him, if he had not been prepared, Marcus would not have realized how close this enemy had come. In a moment of silence, Marcus made a decision. He could not stand by and watch Zeus be taken away. The decision was not only to protect his dog, but also to protect his own life and what they had shared. A battle was about to begin, and no one in the courtroom, not even the mysterious man, could predict the outcome. The tension in the courtroom was palpable. Marcus could clearly feel the danger from the mysterious man standing before him. His cold gaze was not only directed at Zeus, but also a clear threat to everything Marcus had protected over the years. Zeus remained poised, not showing any signs of weakness. Marcus could not help but admire the dog's unconditional loyalty. He knew that it was not only his protection, but also an unbreakable friendship. I don't understand, Marcus said, his voice cold but firm. Zeus is not an object for others to take. He is a warrior, and he is my companion. The man sneered, taking a step towards Marcus. Companion, he said, his voice calm but full of sarcasm. Just a dog, a tool. And now, I need him for a greater purpose. You don't understand, Marcus Grant. Marcus couldn't bear the words any longer. He knew that, whatever the other man's reasons, it couldn't change the fact that Zeus was not a tool. Zeus was a true friend, and that friendship could not be taken away for political or power reasons. A strong feeling rose within Marcus, and he decided to act. Zeus, attack, he shouted. With a resounding roar, Zeus charged towards the strange man. The military dog did not hesitate. The courage in Zeus's every step was evident. But the man was no pushover either. He quickly pulled a gun from his coat, a clear threat. Marcus recognized the danger in time. Zeus, move away, he shouted, but it was too late. Zeus rushed in at an incredible speed, and the man immediately raised his gun. In that moment, everything seemed to slow down. Marcus could do nothing but watch this scene, and a feeling of fear took over him. But what the man could not have predicted was Zeus. The dog jumped into the air, avoiding the bullets that had just hit the ground, and continued to charge at the enemy with extraordinary ferocity. The man could not cope with Zeus's agility and determination. He was knocked to the ground when Zeus pounced on him, using all the strength and skill of a professionally trained warrior. But as Zeus prepared to attack again, a gunshot rang out, not from the man, but from the door of the courtroom. A group of armed soldiers suddenly burst in, surrounding the room and causing everyone inside to panic. They did not come to help Marcus or Zeus. They came for another purpose. A plot was being plotted from behind. Marcus felt angry and confused. Why did these people suddenly appear? They were not authorized to intervene in this situation. The situation had become more complicated than ever, but Marcus could not stop. He had to protect Zeus at all costs. Zeus immediately recognized the change in the situation. It was not only his dog that protected him in the war, but also his friend who was always ready to act when necessary. In this tense moment, the combination of man and dog showed unparalleled strength. Marcus used all his strength and determination to repel the invading soldiers, but Zeus' loyalty was still his most powerful weapon. The dog rushed at the attackers, protecting Marcus from behind and not retreating once. Every jump, every movement of Zeus carried danger, making it difficult for the enemy to act easily. The situation became chaotic. Gunshots rang out. There were pushes, there were struggles. Marcus felt dizzy, but he could not stop. He clung to Zeus, protecting him as Zeus had always protected him. The dog's loyalty had seen them through many trials, and now it was their only salvation. Although the confrontation was long and tense, when the intruders were finally defeated, Marcus and Zeus stood there, tired but strong. No one could separate them. Zeus's loyalty had not only been tested, but had been confirmed stronger than ever. They were fighting not only for survival, but for each other, for their unbreakable friendship. When all was quiet, Marcus looked into Zeus's shining eyes. A thank you, an oath, and an unspoken understanding. They were one, inseparable. The courtroom had fallen into an eerie silence after the chaotic events. The intruders, the armed soldiers, had been taken down. The gunshots had stopped, leaving only the sound of Marcus and Zeus's heavy breathing, along with the wounds left by the battle. But Marcus could not feel relieved. The feeling of anxiety was constantly growing within him, and he knew that this was only the beginning. Looking around the room, the remaining people were just ghosts of power and cold determination. The people present in the room were not his friends, not the people who would stand by him when things turned dark. They were just pieces of a larger picture, a larger war that Marcus was unaware of. The mysterious person who had caused all these events stood still, staring at Marcus. Although he did not say anything, his cold and calm expression made everyone in the room feel an indescribable fear. He was not an ordinary person. He was part of a larger plan, a conspiracy that Marcus could not yet fully comprehend. It's time, the mysterious man said, finally speaking. His voice was low, calculating, but devoid of emotion. Marcus, nothing that happened here was by accident. It was all for a purpose. Marcus didn't know if he had the strength to face this man, but one thing was clear in his mind. He was no ordinary man. To have done what he had just done, he had to be part of something very big, very dangerous. So, what is your purpose? Marcus asked, trying to keep his composure. Why do you want Zeus? The man smirked. This dog is more than just a dog. It's a key, Marcus. A key to unlocking secrets you can't even imagine. It has abilities you've never understood, abilities you'll never be able to control without me. Marcus felt his body stiffen. Everything he knew about Zeus now became a big question. He couldn't quite make sense of it, but it was clear that what he was saying wasn't just empty talk. Zeus saw as part of a larger game, Marcus muttered, his feelings starting to grow heavier. You say he has special abilities, but are you using him for a plot? The mysterious man didn't rush to answer. He just looked at Marcus with cold eyes, as if assessing his every move. Then he spoke, his voice calm but carrying a clear threat. Not just Zeus. All military dogs like him carry secrets that can change the course of war. They are more than pets. They are weapons. And I have the tools to exploit those secrets. Marcus felt a wave of fear wash over him. These were no ordinary words. This was a declaration of war. A declaration of a dark plot brewing in the shadows, and Zeus was just a part of the game. He turned to look at Zeus, his loyal dog standing beside him. The dog was looking at the mysterious man with an unwavering gaze. The bond between them transcended everything. Zeus was not a tool, and Marcus would never let him become something that someone like the other man could take advantage of. Someone like you cannot control Zeus, Marcus said, his voice firm. Never. The mysterious man did not respond immediately. He stood there as if contemplating his words. Then he finally spoke, his voice never losing its coldness. Marcus, I don't need to control him. I just need him to do what I want. And when the time comes, you'll see that everything is just part of a bigger plan. We will meet again. And when that happens, you won't have a choice. The man's last words were a declaration of war, and they came out of his mouth like an undeniable command. Marcus felt the tension in his body rise, but he didn't back down. He couldn't back down, not with Zeus by his side. But before their eyes, a terrible plot was still lurking. Something bigger than Marcus and Zeus, a storm was brewing, and none of them could predict what would happen next. After the tense confrontation with a mysterious man, Marcus and Zeus found a moment of temporary peace. But the anxiety and tension still could not be dispelled. Their enemy was not a single person, but part of a larger force that Marcus could not fully imagine. What he had just said about the key and the secrets in Zeus's body made everything more vague and frightening than ever. Marcus stood silently in a shabby room in a cheap hotel, his eyes fixed on Zeus, his loyal friend. The mysterious man's words still echoed in his mind. The military dogs were not just pets, they were part of a larger conspiracy, a tool capable of changing the course of the war. But Marcus could not understand it all. Why had Zeus, the dog he loved, become a weapon that the enemy could exploit? Zeus, Marcus sighed, sitting down next to his dog. You're more than just a dog, are you? You're part of something bigger than us. Zeus looked at him with loving eyes, as if he knew every thought in Marcus's head. Though the dog couldn't speak, his presence was a comfort, a promise that they would never be apart. But the truth was, they were caught in a game that Marcus didn't know how to escape. The next morning, Marcus decided to act. He knew there was only one way to understand this danger, to find out the truth. The information from the mysterious man, however little, had given him a vital clue. Military dogs like Zeus carried a secret, a special ability that the people behind the mysterious man wanted to exploit. And if they weren't stopped, they would control not only Zeus, but also the other dogs, and an army that no one could stop. Marcus turned to an old source, a friend in the military who he had worked with. This friend, Daniel, was an expert in military dog training programs. Marcus wasn't sure if Daniel knew about the conspiracy, but he had no choice. Daniel approached carefully. He knew that this meeting would probably not end well, but he also knew that Marcus was trustworthy. They met in a secluded area where no one could hear their conversation. Marcus, long time no see, Daniel said, looking around warily. What brings you to me now? Need your help, Marcus replied, not hiding the concern. In his voice, "There's a big conspiracy behind the military dogs, and I need to know everything you know about them." Daniel frowned, then stared into Marcus's eyes as if he was weighing whether to tell the truth or not. "Marcus, what you're saying isn't a trivial matter. Military dogs aren't just tools. They've been trained with special abilities that we can't fully control. But there are some things that I dare not say, because if I say them, I'll put myself in danger." Marcus stared at Daniel, his eyes never leaving his old friend. "I know you want to protect your family, Daniel. But now, if you don't help me, no one can protect our family. That's the truth." Daniel sighed, finally lowering his gaze to the ground. "All right, Marcus. I'll tell you, but you have to promise me that you won't leave things in the hands of dangerous people. Dogs like Zeus, they're not normal animals. They've been experimented on since they were very young, implanted with advanced technology to give them abilities that surpass normal humans in combat. Not everyone knows, but there is a research group that has been experimenting on them, using them as part of a global military strategy. If these forces get the full information, they will stop at nothing to use these dogs. They will want to turn them into weapons of war, capable of destroying entire nations." Daniel's words shook Marcus. He couldn't believe what he had just heard, but all the clues from the mysterious person now matched what Daniel had just revealed. Zeus was more than just a loyal dog. He was part of a grand experiment, and the people behind it would stop at nothing until they had the secrets it held. "We have to stop now," Marcus said, a sense of responsibility weighing down on his shoulders. "Thank you, Daniel. But it's not over yet. I won't let them use Zeus or anyone else as a weapon of war. We will stop them now before it's too late." Daniel nodded, looking at Marcus with worried eyes. "Be careful, Marcus. They have a lot of people behind them. If you're not careful, you'll be the next target." Night had fallen, and the simple hotel room Marcus and Zeus were sheltering in had suddenly become cold. Even though the doors were locked and all the windows were carefully covered, Marcus couldn't help but feel a sense of dread creeping up inside him. Everything had changed. What he knew about the world, about his job, and what he had fought for was now a big question. A question that perhaps no one could answer. Zeus lay beside him, his steady breathing as always the only source of comfort. The loyal dog still kept an eye on Marcus, ready to protect him at any time. But Marcus knew that not only Zeus but also he were in danger. And that danger came not only from the mysterious person, but also from the invisible forces that were manipulating everything from the shadows. While Marcus tried to figure out how to deal with the situation, the clues left by Daniel were gradually leading them down a path of no return. Military dogs like Zeus were not mindless weapons. They were powerful tools, capable of changing the course of war. And if those forces took control, things would never be the same again. Suddenly, a light knock sounded on the door. Marcus was startled, his eyes alert. He stood up, his hand not leaving the gun he had hidden carefully in his coat. Zeus immediately stood up as well, his ears pricked up, his eyes alertly looking towards the door. "Is anyone there?" Marcus asked, his voice low, but full of worry. There was no answer, only a tense silence. But Marcus sensed something was wrong. He walked towards the door, slowly reaching out to grip the hilt of his knife, preparing for any situation. Just then, the door suddenly opened, and a group of men with weapons appeared. They were not ordinary intruders, but highly trained men. Their faces were expressionless, but their sharp eyes showed that they were not here to talk. Zeus rushed towards the door, roaring a warning. Marcus's powerful dog did not hesitate, leaping to attack one of them. The intruders did not expect such fierce resistance. Both of them fought relentlessly. Zeus rushed in, using all the strength and skill he had been trained to take down one of the attackers. Marcus did not hesitate. He quickly drew his gun, aiming at the remaining attackers. But he knew that in this battle, only Zeus could truly protect him. These people were trained to defeat anyone who stood in their way, but Zeus was no easy opponent. A gunfight broke out right in the room, the sound of bullets clattering like a chaotic song. One of the intruders fell to the ground when Marcus shot him in the leg. But then, one of the others rushed forward, punching Marcus hard in the back, knocking him to the floor. They didn't just want to capture him, they wanted to end everything. Zeus didn't let Marcus lie still. The dog quickly attacked the enemy, pouncing on him, biting his arm, forcing him to retreat in pain. The military dog didn't hold back because it was a matter of survival. Marcus felt the pain from his wound, but he couldn't afford to be weak. He had to keep fighting. Zeus, go! Marcus shouted. He didn't have time to think about the wound. Everything was happening too fast, and he knew that the longer it dragged on, the more would appear. He couldn't let Zeus get caught in this fight. Zeus once again charged towards the remaining enemies, an unstoppable force. Every pounce, every blow from Zeus sent the armed soldiers back. Marcus's loyal dog had survived many challenges, but this time it was a fight to the death. And the dog was fearless. The fight lasted less than a few minutes, but it felt like an eternity. When the intruders were finally defeated, there was only a tense silence. The attackers were down, but neither Marcus nor Zeus could breathe a sigh of relief. Battles like this were just the beginning. Marcus, despite a slight wound to his shoulder, stood up, looking at Zeus with gratitude. His loyal dog had saved his life once again. Thank you, Zeus. We can't stop, can we? Zeus looked at him with knowing eyes, as if ready to continue the fight. There was no time to rest. These people were just pieces in a larger plot that Marcus and Zeus had to unravel. But one thing was clear. They were no longer alone. The bond between Marcus and Zeus is an unbreakable force. No matter what danger they face, they will fight together for each other for survival. When the battle ended and silence fell over the room, Marcus stood panting, his body aching but his heart unwavering. He looked at Zeus, his dog, his friend who had been through so much together. Though he was tired, Zeus's gaze was sharp, not wavering. The dog stood there, his back tense, as if protecting Marcus from whatever threat still lurked in the darkness. Marcus could feel the fatigue emanating from Zeus's body, but the dog showed no sign of weakness. Zeus' eyes were still bright, his ears still alert, ready to respond to any sound. It was time for both of them to rest, but Marcus knew they couldn't. The conspiracy they were facing was not just a personal battle, but a much larger one. Even in the tense and dangerous moments, Marcus and Zeus' friendship remained steadfast. This bond was more than just a reliance on each other in battle. It was an understanding, a willingness to sacrifice for each other, a bond that could not be broken. And right now, Marcus knew that no matter what, Zeus would always be there for him. They were a part of each other, an unstoppable team. Marcus sat down tired, but determined. Zeus stood by his side, unmoving, like a loyal soldier waiting for orders. Neither of them needed to say a word. The bond between them was more than that. It was not just about survival, but about trust, about standing together no matter what danger. This friendship was not something that could be easily replaced. What do we do next, Zeus? Marcus asked, but he didn't really expect an answer. He only needed to look into Zeus's eyes to know that they would face any challenge together. And no matter how great the challenge, they will never retreat. The two continue to move, entering the darkness, where enemies are still waiting. But this time, they are no longer alone. They are an inseparable team. Every step Marcus takes, Zeus follows, without hesitation. They are like inseparable shadows, overcoming all difficulties together. Zeus has always been Marcus's strong support. No matter how many dangers befall, Marcus knows that he can trust his dog. The dog not only protects him physically, but also mentally. Whenever Marcus feels hopeless, Zeus is there, without words, just the presence of the dog, and Marcus continues the fight. He no longer feels alone. Zeus is his family, his irreplaceable companion. In the dark, they continue to move forward, without a single unnecessary word. Every step they took was a declaration of the power of loyalty, of everlasting friendship. They didn't know what the future held, but they knew one thing: no matter what happened, they would never give up on each other. After days of fighting the intruders, the tension still hasn't let up for Marcus and Zeus. They've survived the battles, but now that peace has temporarily returned, Marcus can't shake the feeling of unease in his heart. They've defeated the intruders, but all they've seen is the tip of the iceberg. The real problem has yet to be revealed, and the danger they're facing is greater than any battle they've ever been through. Throughout this journey, the signs of a larger conspiracy are becoming clearer. But what Marcus can't foresee are the consequences of his choices. Every step they take now isn't just a fight for survival, but also facing difficult decisions that could change the course of the war. And those choices are leading them into a maze from which there's no easy way out. Marcus sat alone in the dimly lit room, the light from the lamp illuminating the papers scattered on the table. The information Daniel had given him about the military dog experiment had kept Marcus awake. These experiments involved more than just training fighting dogs. They were part of a global military strategy, one that could have the power to control entire nations. Zeus, you're more than just a dog, Marcus said softly, looking at the dog lying beside him, its steady gaze returning his gaze. You're part of something more terrible than we can imagine. Zeus didn't say anything, but the way the dog looked at Marcus, his eyes knowing and deep, made Marcus feel that no matter what happened, the dog would always be by his side, fighting with him to the end. But he couldn't help but feel a surge of anxiety rising in his heart. The truth was too terrible to accept. After a moment of thought, Marcus stood up, determined to find out at all costs the forces behind this conspiracy. He had prepared everything, and together with Zeus, he was determined to find the place where these dark conspiracies were being arranged. But things did not go as he expected. As soon as they got out, a strange car followed them from afar. Marcus sensed the danger that was threatening. They could not easily escape these forces. At this point, Marcus understood that his and Zeus's fight was not just against a group of intruders, but a life-and-death battle against an entire system, a force that could manipulate everything. They knew. As night fell, the car continued to follow them, carrying people that Marcus could not recognize. The streets were quiet. Only the sound of the engine echoed in the darkness. Marcus and Zeus could not stop, but they could not continue without understanding who was following them. Their steps on this road were no longer the steps of a victor. Those were the steps of a man being chased, not knowing if he could escape the lurking dangers. Marcus decided to take Zeus into a deserted alley, trying to create distance from the car. But suddenly, from the darkness, another car rushed forward, blocking their path. Two men in black stepped out of the car, their eyes cold and determined. "Captain Grant, we don't want to do this." One of them spoke, his voice low and menacing. "But if you don't cooperate, things will get much worse." Marcus didn't reply, just stared at them, a feeling of regret rising in his heart. He knew that these people were not just ordinary henchmen. They were the ones behind every conspiracy, the ones who would stop at nothing until they achieved their goals. And they knew that he was gradually discovering the truth. Zeus immediately stood up, baring his teeth, growling in warning. The dog would not accept any threats, and Marcus knew that this was not the time to give in. "What happens if I don't cooperate?" Marcus asked, his voice cold, unwavering. The man smiled sarcastically, but there was no gloating in it. "You will see the consequences when we cannot let you continue down this path. And we will not stop until everything is completely under our control." Another man began to approach, weapon in hand, but Zeus immediately lunged at him, leaping with the strength and speed of a sharp blade. He fell to the ground, screaming in pain. This fight was no longer about survival. This was a fight between life and death. Marcus grabbed Zeus's hand, pulling the dog closer. He did not have much time. These men would not give up easily, and Marcus knew that if he did not act now, the consequences would be worse. He and Zeus continued to run into the darkness, not knowing what lay ahead. But one thing was certain, they would not give up. The fight had gone beyond their own survival, and now Marcus and Zeus would stop at nothing until every secret was exposed. Marcus and Zeus didn't have much time to think about what had just happened. They could only keep running, each step hurried, each breath urgent. The sense of danger still lingered around them like a fog that could not be dispelled. But one thing was clear, they could not retreat. With sharp eyes and a sensitive nose, Zeus took the lead, guiding Marcus through the dark alleys of the city. Every sound from behind made Marcus feel nervous, but the dog was not afraid. The dog knew that even in the dark, no matter how many enemies lurked, they could not stop Marcus and Zeus himself. The bond between them was stronger than any threat. "What should we do next, Zeus?" Marcus whispered, but he didn't really expect an answer. He just wanted to hear Zeus' footsteps, wanted to feel the presence of this dog, the only friend he could completely trust. Running through the deserted streets, they reached a suburban area where no one was around. Marcus felt a little safe, but he knew it was only temporary. The enemies had not given up yet. The forces they were facing were not easy to defeat. Marcus stopped, looked around once more, then turned to Zeus. The dog said nothing, just stood silently, his eyes still fixed on Marcus, as if protecting him from all the dangers around him. We have come too far, Zeus, Marcus said, his voice low and determined. It will not end here. We will face more challenges, more enemies, but I know you will always be with me. And we will not give up. Zeus did not need words, he just bowed his head, almost as if in oath. The things they had been through, the battles of survival, had only strengthened this friendship. Zeus's friendship and loyalty were not just a gift, but invisible strength that Marcus could rely on whenever he felt desperate. A distant noise sounded, as if a car was approaching. Marcus and Zeus immediately went into a state of alert. They knew that any movement could lead to a clash. But this time, Marcus no longer felt fear. He knew that in his hands was his most loyal friend, the friend who could overcome everything. As the car passed, Marcus realized that it was a black car. A vague feeling came over him. These mysterious people were constantly following them. Marcus couldn't help but feel like he was being chased forever. But in that moment, a voice rang out from the darkness. It's time to face the truth, Marcus. Marcus turned around, startled to see a man stepping out of the darkness, his face showing exhaustion but determination. It was Daniel, his old friend, the one who had helped him uncover the conspiracy behind the military dogs. But now Daniel's eyes were no longer as confident as before. There was a worry in them, as if he was facing something worse than what they had faced. Daniel, Marcus exclaimed, unable to hide his surprise. Why are you here? Daniel looked around, then shook his head. I don't have much time. The people behind all this, they have been watching your every move. What we're facing isn't just a group of people, it's a global network. A conspiracy that, if not stopped in time, will not only destroy you and Zeus, but the entire world. Marcus felt fear rising in his heart. So what do we do now? Daniel took a deep breath, his eyes fixed on Marcus. We have to stop them now. You can't let them control Zeus. You can't let them take over. This isn't just about you two anymore. If you don't stop now, you'll all be destroyed. Zeus stood beside Marcus, growling in warning. The dog seemed to have realized the danger this strange man posed. But Marcus couldn't ignore what Daniel said. He knew that no matter what he faced, Zeus would always be his only companion, his protector from all dark forces. So, how do we stop them? Marcus asked, his voice firm, no longer doubtful. Daniel held out his hand, pointing to the horizon. There's only one way, a truth that not everyone can face. And you, Marcus, are the only one who can change it all. But it will plunge you into a never-ending war. Marcus looked there, where a dark and dangerous path awaited them. But he had made up his mind. No matter what happens, he will not back down. The road ahead may be full of challenges, but Marcus and Zeus will always be together. No one can separate them. As Daniel turned to leave, Marcus and Zeus looked at each other again, without words. They knew that the only thing they could do was move forward, no matter where the road led them.